Welcome to the Meetings Podcast, the meeting organizer's podcast source for what's new in the meetings and events industry. Meetings Podcast is a conversation with a variety of voices that looks at events, meetings, and media. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events.
As listeners, this is Mike McAllen from Grass Shack Events and Media and avforplanners.com. Wanted to thank our sponsors before we get started with the interview with Tom Brandt. Today we have event escalators. I think this is apropos for Tom because he is such a clever guy with patents on different things and comes up with new ideas. So let's talk a little bit about our sponsor, Event Escalator. Are you tired of your executives walking up those stairs on each side of the stage? How about the newest trend in speaker comfort, event escalators? Event escalators keep your executives fresh and ready to give those engaging presentations. 4 out of 5 speakers feel event escalators improves their speeches. So rise to the occasion with event escalators. You can check them out at eventescalators.com. Also, a sponsor is audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/meetings podcast. That's our podcast. Please do that. They have a ton of books. I love listening to the books. I listen to books all the time. Couple of books that are cool. Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. If you haven't read it, very cool book to listen to. Boys in the Boat, just read that. Great book. Listen to it. Elon Musk, the new book on his life, crazy, all the stuff he's doing. So check it out. And again, audibletrial.com/meetings podcast. And let's get into the interview with Tom Brandt from Etek. So here we go. Okay, welcome back to the Meetings Podcast. This is Mike McAllen from Grass Shack Events and Media and AV for Planners. And on today's show, we have Tom Brandt. Hi, Tom.
Hey, good morning.
Thank you very much for talking with me today. I know you and I are friends outside of this. I think we are, aren't we?
The fact that you have to ask the question, yeah, that concerns me. But yes. At some level, yes. There's a story or two there.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about you to start out so people know who you are and Etek.
Sure. A little bit about myself. I've been in the event space, primarily in the technology bucket within this world that we all live in for about 25 years. Started my career early on in Northern Virginia, outside in the DC area, which is a big technology corridor. And really what launched me into the event space, ironically, was working for a German technology company way back when. That you wouldn't know the name. They had an annual event every year. I started out at working in a mailroom and got brought into their global event, which had thousands of people from all over the world. Worked in the logistical space of doing that. Was good at that, and then the principal held up, and they brought me into the technology area of that. From that, worked for a startup company that later became America Online. From there, that was just a rocket ship for many years. This is before the .com. And after that, shortly thereafter, I founded Etek a few years later, and here we are today.
Wow, what did you do for AOL then? Were you shipping discs, or what were you doing?
Yeah, no. Early on, this is okay. I'm dating myself heavily to those and fast forward through it. So this is before internet. This is before Wi-Fi. This is before really any of the high-speed stuff existed. So it was kind of the tipping point where this whole email and web thing was a very geeky thing where you had to buy stuff for your computer and put it together. And like you mentioned, floppy disks. It was a huge amount of work just to kind of make everything work. Nothing really was kind of like that. So for AOL, I was doing executive support for their meetings. So I was a young guy that was smart and knew how to make things work. And we would go around to certainly different events and a lot of Wall Street back then, a lot of San Francisco venture capitalists who were funding the business at the time, and basically try to make this idea work and have people invest, millions and billions of dollars into it.
Wow. Okay, so do you have a favorite quote?
Yes, I do. I do have a favorite quote. It kind of, I guess, would have to set up with our company culture that we have. Is definitely one of sarcasm and definitely having a sense of humor. We have a hallway in our office with a number of posters on them, and anybody who's seen those successory posters where you soar like the eagles, and they've got pretty pictures and inspirational sayings. So we have a hallway full of posters from a company called despair.com.
Yeah.
So despair is the antithesis of the it's sarcasm, and one of my favorites that I crack up, I still see when I walk by it. It's got a picture of I think an oil tanker rammed up onto an island sinking, and the quote of that says, "It could be that the purpose of your life is to serve as a warning to others." So it's actually a very funny website. Good gifts and lots of funny stuff that you can entertain yourself with there. So that there's many. That's one of.
That's great. Yeah, and I did a little Google search on you before we started chatting because I was looking for a good bio from you. But it was fun to see you looking at you, like your company culture is big on the internet, how good the culture is at Etek. And one of them was about pets, bringing pets to work.
Absolutely. No, we do a lot of stuff, but we're not a gigantic company, so we're not venture capital owned. We're not public owned. So the good part of that is we have a lot of flexibility into how we want to run the company. And what we're going to do and not do. So pets are a big thing. Certainly, in the Bay Area where you are, probably not so much. But it definitely speaks to one part of the informality of the culture. As many people work in this world put in huge hours, especially seasonally as well. And anything we can do to just make it easy. We want to keep people here for a long time. And little things like that, like when your pet or your dog in here makes a big difference, I think, just as far as overall. And it definitely helps in just kind of taking a break once in a while because it makes you kind of get outside as well.
What's the biggest challenge you've encountered in starting Etek? And then how'd you handle it?
The biggest?
Yeah.
Wow. I've been in business for over 20 for sure. The biggest challenge, I would say, I think in most people having their own companies, the people stuff is the biggest challenge, just overall. And I'd say that actually you could just break that down on a day-to-day thing, but understanding people, finding what people are good at, communicating, keeping people, getting them on the rails when they fall off, interviewing. That's the hardest, that's the biggest challenge, I would say, overall, in any business. And there's been, other things as far as, economic cycles, September 11th, the dot-com crash, whatever we did a couple years ago with the economy speeding up and slowing down, if you've got those other things fixed, you kind of work your way through all those other things.
So tell me about the moment that made you realize that you made the right choice in your career. I mean, did you have like an aha moment that said, "Oh, I'm glad I'm doing this"?
I think if you're going to be in the race long enough, it's like running a marathon. You get out of the gate. You're going to run 26 miles, and the first mile you feel great. And it ebbs and flows certainly at times with different successes and different failures, and just kind of keep tweaking. I don't know. I know that I was definitely born to do this. I'm definitely an entrepreneur that has probably a twisted barometer toward risk as far as definitely trying new things. And I think that's allowed us to kind of tack the company quite a few times, certainly being in technology over those years.
So tell us what you actually do. What does Etek do? I know they do AV, signage, digital signage, and internet stuff. So kind of take us through what you're up to like now. Like what is it? What's a typical, if someone wanted to work with you, how would it work?
Yeah, we're typically what work looks like for us. We're doing the majority of our work is in that large corporate space and very heavy on the technology side. So, for example, we do Amazon conferences, AWS, their web services. Crow and Michael Weed. We work with Opus Event Services for that project specifically. They use us for a project like that. We're migrating all of their large screen, meaning audiovisual assets, LCD monitors, projectors, whatever have you, to our digital signage process. And we could go on and on about what that means. But basically, in the scheme of the world, we know that everything is going more digital as opposed to printed. And we're working with them on just really integrating a lot of what they want to communicate to the attendees and everybody there, and distributing that throughout the event.
So an even more broader look, what does that look like? Like if I'm looking up at the top of an event, what does that look like? Like, what are you doing? Where's the Etek? Where's the Etek?
Yeah, it could be everywhere as far as we primarily on these larger conferences focus in the breakout rooms areas, those breakout rooms. So we're involved almost at a site selection level as far as a lot of planning and organization. We function very much, even though we own equipment, a huge amount of resources and people on the planning side in different disciplines. The size of these events that we're doing and the complexity of all the options. I mean, people have event apps now. They have recording of conferences. They have Wi-Fi. They have AV. There's all these ideas and new things, but they still really need to be managed. It's not like you just go, get a widget or buy something and bring it into a conference and have it work. So a lot of production companies, agencies, companies kind of use us in that role as an integrator, where we'll take and manage that process and the people and the equipment, and bring it into those spaces outside of just the staging, the keynote area. We're working in the areas outside of that, which on a lot of the shows is pretty substantial.
So I remember talking with you recently about that. I don't know if you don't have to talk about this, but I thought it was very interesting. Is that signage box that actually the base was the box that you designed?
Yeah. We do a lot of we do a lot of ideas. We have actually we're pretty close to a patent on just a device that allows us to deploy digital signs on the monitor side, just an LCD monitor from like say a 46 to a 75-inch monitor. So one of the constraints that people have in moving from like a decorator printed sign meter board type scenario, it's a huge cost jump. And one of our biggest impediments is not that people don't love it, because once you use it, there's no way efficiency wise and ease wise that you'd go backward. But it's a pretty substantial cost jump going from kind of, the past to the future. One of the largest contributors to that cost, ironically, is just really the labor that it takes for us to go in and move this equipment in, set it up, store it, fumble it around, plug everything in, have a bunch of people touch it, and do the same thing to leave. So what we've done with that is integrated a case that basically looks like a transformer with actuators, and then disassembles and reassembles. And we can deploy a digital sign of a variety of sizes in a few minutes. If you did it conventionally, even digitally, that would take a couple of hours. So a lot of it's in a cost and an efficiency standpoint. so that we can continue to get the cost out so we can do more and more signs.
Very cool. Yeah, I thought that's fantastic to get the labor costs down. Where do we see Etek going in the future? Is there something new that you just explained something that you're doing, but do you have anything else that you wanted to kind of talk about where you think you're going?
Yeah, no, a lot of our strategic functionality, our bones and our experience are on the internet side from way back when. We understand that that's a core competency of our business. It's not there's people that do that very well. That's not a strategic focus of ours, but it's a competency. Audiovisual is as well. We're really good with process and systems and organization and planning of a million things going to a million places with a million people. But the focus and the strategy of what we're working on is really gets put into this digital sign bucket. To where we are doing that with digital information. And it could be data from the registration company. It could be videos from the marketing agency. It could be social media. It could be scanning, RFID. It could be kind of any kind of thing that you can see and hear. And moving that over a network through databases to all the audiovisual equipment that's deployed at the show. So instead of just having a monitor that's not connected to anything, we're connecting that monitor to a process so that we can control what you see, hear, and do.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So let me ask you a couple questions so people get a feel for the Tom Brandt. Okay. Mm-hmm. First, take us through a typical day. Do you have any morning rituals, food you like to eat, exercise, and is there places on the web that you go daily to go get your news or get your fix of whatever you like? So kind of take us through a day.
Yeah, no, I mean, as far as personally a day for me, I'm a huge exercise person, and I'm certainly disciplined in that way, which has been good, especially for the role and life that I lead, especially on the road, to try and maintain that. But I'm a big CrossFit person, so I compete. I do all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades exercise person. I do that early in the morning, so I'm usually, at a class or with friends or something like that, doing that at 6 or 7 in the morning. I'm a single dad, so I've got kids most of the time that are, 9 and 12. So that's a big side of my life as far as off to the races and living, that kind of world as well too. And then I do a substantial amount of travel. I do live in Orlando. We have, on our payroll about 40 people. We have a leadership team of department people that I'm meeting with one-on-one regularly and as a group and a team, but pretty substantial amount of travel as well, too, because most of our work is not here.
Very cool. Very cool. So do you have any special foods or anything that gets you going in the day?
I love to cook. I'd say in my house, as far as the things that if I'm buying and shopping, I definitely really enjoy food, and I think as you certainly kind of a caveat toward working in this industry, certainly on the travel side of it, and going all over the world, and doing that is being exposed to different food. So I cook constantly all the time, and I like to buy stuff for the kitchen, and I think it's kind of a cool, relaxing, kind of mad scientist thing that that I really, really enjoy, do quite a bit of.
Very cool. And then how about do you daily get your news or your fix from something on the internet? It doesn't have to be event or, is there something you like?
Yeah, nothing super structured, I would say, as far as a lot of things derivative of the email, and maybe having a CNBC or a CNN occasionally just there. I'm a big reader, certainly when I'm traveling. I'm in the plane at least every other week. And I'm not typically doing the events, but typically just meeting with customers or potential customers or other vendors we're working on or strategic projects. So I'm definitely more of a reader than almost anything.
So that rolls into my next question is, what book do you gift others? Is there a book you give away to people?
Oh, there's a ton. It depends on the person. And as far as all of the standard books, that people go through. I've got a handful of them that I share with people that we hire or they're in roles. I'd have a huge list. I'd say some of the looking at my shelf right now, actually talking to you here. There's a bunch of good ones depending on the person. High level book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, is a good one. All the classics like The Good to Greats, great turnaround book. Howard Schultz, Onward, on how he came back and fixed his company. We do a lot of behavioral stuff as far as people stuff. So Strength Finder we use as far as the interview process, as far as finding what you're good at, and learning about what you're good at, and sort of trying to make you something that you're not. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. I'm involved in a CEO group in town, and that's where we share and get a lot of good information on different things.
Oh, that's very cool. What's the CEO group? Is it got a name? Is it one of those?
It's like a Vistage. It's a big brand name. It's a group just in Central Florida with about 40 members called Team Strength. But it basically it functions as an informal board of directors. There are people that I probably couldn't hire that are much smarter and more successful, not in my industry. And we meet, once a month for a full day and do a half day of planning for that. And it basically functions just like a board as far as sharing numbers and issues and debate and strategy and all kinds of things.
So great. I have a couple of friends that are in those sort of mastermind kind of groups with people. And same thing. None of them are in the same industry, and it seems to work very well for them. Just to get that feedback really on everything. To get outside your industry. Yeah, people really get a lot of head trash as far as, well, in our world, this can't be done, and this and that. I tell you what, I got more in common with the guy with Subway and the guy that runs the auto dealerships, and the people that are doing all kinds of different industries than I probably would with people doing what I'm doing. I would say. Yeah. A lot of it's not complicated. Certainly not when you're managing people and leading a company and working on financials and strategy. It's really not. 80% of it's the same, I think. Yeah. So I know you travel all the time, but if you could time travel, Tom, where would you go and why?
Time travel. Let's see. I think is probably as twisted it would be. I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. I'm actually missing the series there. I've been jumping into the books again, to where I think it'd be very interesting. All that horrible because of the probably disease, famine, and violence that went on to go back and see things. In the Middle Ages or something, or certainly Rome at its peak, I think would be interesting back in those days.
Yeah, that's funny you say that about the Game of Thrones. I read all those books, years ago, obviously, and I was kind of jonesing for them too. And I was thinking, Audible's like one of the sponsors of our podcast, and I listened to all those books, the Game of Thrones, and I was thinking, I should listen to them again. Might be fun,
You miss it when you get hooked into shows and then they take them away, and then you're gone for a year. So it's kind of a catch in between until the next time.
And they did a great job with those shows.
It's amazing.
It's funny that you say that too, because yesterday I was doing laundry and I was folding the laundry and I was watching the HBO. I went to I'll watch while I'm folding the laundry, I'll watch an old Game of Thrones, and but they didn't have any. They didn't have a lot of them in there, but they had these little vignettes of them, doing the show, making the show. What do you call those? They used to have them at the end of the.
Little bumpers or whatever.
Yeah, and it was the writers, and they had never done anything like this before, and they had pitched it to the guy who wrote them, the R.R. Martin guy, and got the job to do that, in charge of that huge production. Unbelievable how much money they talk about productions. Holy crap. There's stuff going on everywhere.
Now, and the characters are certainly at a level to where almost like a Star Warsy type thing, where you wonder how people can have this in their minds and then keep it sorted out, and keep a storyline together with so many people moving around and jumping in and jumping out.
And then dying.
Everybody dies.
Have you ever had a nickname?
Other than like a childhood one that I wouldn't want to repeat, I think there was a cute mom and dad thing about my flatulence. No, I don't think. Trying to think of something there.
When you look at our industry, this meetings and events, when you think of successful in our industry, who do you think of?
Successful in our industry as far as a person or a company or something like
Let's
that?
go person. You could say company too if you can't think of it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. As far as who do I see, really breaking it out, as far as a company that's doing great work, it's really, to be honest with you, very challenging to follow people, I think, because there's so many different niches within it. There's so broad and spread out. It's really, I think, 10,000 miles wide and a quarter inch deep. And there's so many pieces that I don't see. Certainly because a lot of the time, certainly in our business model, we're only working with people or projects sometimes once a year. So a lot of times, as far as in that area, it's difficult to see as far as who's doing stuff revolutionarily. Certainly in the tech space, there's a lot of very small companies. I think probably the ones I admire most are the small ones that I probably don't even know, that are doing really neat stuff on the cutting edge. And I would probably say, I'm sure on the larger side of things, there's some amazing people in there that I just really don't get to probably see or interact with as much as I should, just because of the nature of our traveling and what we're doing.
Yeah. So now I just ask a couple more questions, then we can be done with this, Tom, because I know you're a very busy man. What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I ever received. So this is in that group that I mentioned that I was in. A mentor of mine, years ago when I was starting out. And I don't know if it was specific because it went on and on as far as their relationship goes. This guy was a lot older and smarter. His formal education, he was a cotton farmer from Alabama. He grew up, absolutely no formal education at all. And he was running a fire safety company here in the area that I live. He grew this thing from PVC pipe on his kitchen counter to a $100 million company that made more money than you could probably ever count, up and down. And really I think most of his advice, certainly as I was a lot younger, was just slow down and listen. I think listening is really difficult, especially with all the tech distractions that we have, and be present and focus and listen to people. And certainly that portrays into the listening part of empathizing with people, and listening, understanding what they need and what you need from them and what they need from you. And he really drilled all that stuff in that, just being smart really isn't everything. So I would say that, as far as whatever I kind of got together there, those were my big takeaways as far as my interaction with him, because his style was 180 degrees different from mine. And I completely got it. When this guy spoke to you, you listened.
Interesting. I have a friend that similar fire safety. I used to be a fireman for a long time. That is irrelevant of this guy, though. And he devised a sprinkler system, a piece that goes through the sprinkler system, the fire sprinklers. Yep. And he got a patent on it, and he's the only one who can service it. And so it's in all the buildings in San Francisco.
Wow.
All of them. So he has his service job. Now his son's taking it over, but the same sort of thing. He was actually was a fire chief a long time ago, but pretty amazing, you know. And if you talk to him, you meet him, you don't think he would be, you know, same thing. He's just made of money, you know. But
yeah,
drives an old crappy truck. And
IQ's not everything. It really isn't. As you're around long enough, that kind of Yoda experience and wisdom really carries a lot more weight. I think as got a little bit older and a little more patient, and didn't try to solve every problem that comes across you. You get a lot more out of people when you kind of engage and pay attention.
That's great. Yeah, this guy's funny. He'll drive by. He drives an old truck, big old white beard. He's always smoking pot too, which is very funny. Like, it's just crazy. Like, he's got this big company and he's always driving around smoking pot. It's just funny old guy. All right, so what's something that's working for you right now? Do you have now you said like a new app, a vitamin, like an exercise program, you know, or a work hack, time saver? I'm just kind of throwing things out there to get your mind clicking. But do you have something that's working for you?
As far as personally goes,
yeah, it could be personally, work-wise, or both.
Yeah, no, I think I guess really the most difficult thing is routine, and just staying to routine, because I do think, and I'm a dad, and certainly it's important for kids, but I think certainly people that travel, I think routine is important. Like I work out when I go on the road. I'm able to do that kind of wherever I go. I'll do it in the room. I've got a whole travel bag for that. I can't be as disciplined with the food, and sometimes with the sleep, or depending on where I'm going, the festivities or activities or drinks or something after that. But I think a lot of what's working for me is that I'm really disciplined and I can kind of stick with it, regardless of where I am. And I think that just makes you feel better, especially when you're in and out, every couple of days. You can't let yourself go. I think certainly I've been fortunate and I think too that energy is the most important thing. So if I can keep all that other stuff working, then my energy's right and the head's right.
Yeah, it's a good thing you said, because I wonder that about our industry. There's a lot of overweight people. I guess in the U.S., of course, there.
Yeah, it's almost not the industry; it's almost everywhere. But
yeah, but our industry is pretty.
Twice as hard. It really does, in the scheme of things too.
It's like the food that your crews are eating, and in the hotel food, those services they bring out, just full of fatty stuff.
No, I mean, you got to make choices, and it's a first world problem as far as that goes.
Totally.
And you and I have traveled a lot in the third world, hardcore in India, Nepal, and stuff like that, it definitely has an impact on your choices in your life, and certainly your gratitude. And I think just accepting being happy, not to make this a Tony Robbins conversation.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's true, and that's good, and that's kind of what I'm kind of shooting for, trying to find what people are doing and what makes them tick on, so other people who are listening can grab a few things and go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I should start doing that. That's what I'm trying to get at from the interview.
There's a really neat place in our area. I was trying to find the book. That's called the Human Performance Institute. This is something that came out of a group that I'm in, and basically these guys used to. It's the coolest company ever that you could probably work in. So basically, these guys would take really super athletes. We get a lot of the golfers live here in Florida, so they'd take these guys, and the difference when you're the top. You're the top 100 golfer in the world, and the top, and you're number one. The difference between those people are, like inches, right?
Yeah.
You're the best in the world, and the difference between you and us, it's like tiny little things. So these guys basically take them and just tweak them a little bit, and they just work on a lot of those. Again, I joke on the Tony Robbins thing because I think we talked about that earlier. But a lot of the basic stuff, certainly food, sleep, exercise, all the stuff people know. Spirituality is a big thing, too. Just being happy with people and stuff like that. Actually, I just thought of the book that a really good book that I pick up. It's called The Power of Full Engagement. That's a good one to flip through and read.
Huh. Okay.
pretty easy read, lots of kind of analogies of people and circumstances and how these guys work with people. But that's kind of how it works in that team strength group that I work with as well too. Is just there's definitely more to it than just work if you're going to be in the game for a long time. And that's a good one to read that I'd recommend as well too. That I didn't mention before.
That's great. And I have a couple other questions, but that you brought up the Nepal stuff, and I wanted to talk a little bit about your school that you started. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how it started? Because I was thinking all the stuff that's gone on. Well, you go ahead, start talking.
Yeah, no, I mean, people know what Nepal is from Mount Everest, and then people know there were earthquakes there. So back many years ago when I was married, and as a preference, as a warning to others, for our honeymoon, we started an organization in Nepal that was serving orphaned and severely disadvantaged children. That's been going for about 10 or 12 years, I want to say off the top of my head, not to be precise, based in the Kathmandu Valley. And that was definitely something I wish I had done earlier in life, certainly in the teens or 20s. My wife at the time had traveled throughout Southeast Asia after college for about 2 or 3 years, just kind of backpacking India, Southeast Asia, and really liked Nepal the best. So really what we did is we kind of just bootstrapped it together between our resources and the company and people in our social circle, and started an organization. It's about 30 kids right there now too, highly structured. We run it just like a business. And we're taking kids basically from these remote villages that are living kind of like we joked about in the Middle Ages, bringing them. They don't speak English. They barely speak Nepali. They're usually starving. Pretty rough. We take the high potential kids and we put them into the program, and they do a bunch of school, and they're getting loved and fed, and they're with other kids, and a lot of help and things like that around them, and they're doing ridiculously crazy things. We actually just had the first kid graduate from the program that came in at 6 years old.
Wow. And what's it called?
Rising Lotus Children's Village.
Very cool. So, and is there an online presence for that people could see?
Yeah, you can. If risinglotuschildrensvillage.org, or it's on Facebook and things like that too to follow.
And so how often do you get out there?
I was actually supposed to be there last week. I had some issues family-wise with my folks, but I'm usually there every year.
Very cool. Very cool. So the last question is, if you could talk to your high school senior you, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. High school senior me. I don't think I would really do much different. I would say, I guess I do this with my kids now, is let's find what you love to do. Let's find, and hopefully what you're really good at, and hopefully that's the same thing. Let's not worry about all the other reasons, why not, or all that stuff. And let's just kind of focus around making you really, really great at that, and not kind of a jack of all trades kind of thing, or what other people want you to do. I think that's probably what I would say, and that's kind of what I'm doing with my guys. And everybody's a little different, and not everybody's supposed to be a CEO or an entrepreneur or a accountant or a plumber or whatever. And I think just be the best at what you're supposed to be good at.
Very cool. All right, Tom, so where can people get a hold of you?
They can reach me. My email address, tbrandt@etechevents.com. That's our domain name, is etechevents.com. And I live in the Central Florida area. People can either shoot me an email or something like that. That's usually the best way to reach me.
And it's etechav.com, isn't it?
Yeah, that's also a domain that we hold as well, but Etek Events is the primary.
Is the primary one, okay. All right, Tom, thanks so much. I hope to see you soon, one time.
Yeah, sounds good, Mike. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Bye. Okay, podcast listeners, thanks for listening to Tom and I chatted up. It's always great to talk to Tom. I wanted to thank our sponsors. At the beginning of the show, I forgot to thank IMEX America, or IMEX Frankfurt, the IMEX Group, all the great people at IMEX. Forgot to thank them. Thank them for sponsoring and Event Escalators. Wanted to thank them. And of course, audible.com. So check out our sponsors and support them. Thank you very much. You can go on over to audibletrial.com/meetings podcast. You can always go over to Event Escalators and talk to them about that innovative company. And that's it. Wanted to thank you very much. If you have any questions, any comments, please email me at meetingspodcast@gmail.com. If you just want to say hi, please do that. If you could put, hi, 3 highs in the subject line, that would be great. I'll know it's from you. And hi, and just say hi. And that's it. That'd be great. And if you want to, and then you can reach me at meetingspodcast@gmail.com. I think I already said that, but I'll say it again. And last but not least, if you want to support the show, I'd love if you go over and do a review in iTunes and just say what you thought about the show. And that's it. Have a great day, great night, and I will talk to you next time. I really appreciate you listening to the show. It means a lot to me, and that's it.
We appreciate and thank you for listening to the Meetings Podcast. Please email with any questions or comments to meetingspodcast@gmail.com. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events. The Meetings Podcast theme music is brought to you by the Delgado Brothers, which can be found at delgadobrothers.com.